All right, welcome back, everyone, to our second episode today on What's Next. I'm your host, Matthew Quinn, and today we're following up on online press. Uh, Much like the rest of the theater community, much like the rest of the world, they also have had to pivot during the pandemic. And we're very excited to have two theater critics who have really made an impact and are really promoting a positive vibe of what's going on right now on online entertainment. So I'd like to bring in to our studio Dana and Ricky. Dana and Ricky, welcome. Hello.
We're here.
Yeah, Rick and Dana Young-Howze. I'm going to kind of mish your bios kind of together. Dana is a theater critic, social media manager, and screenwriter from Mays Landing, New Jersey. Ricky is a theater critic, playwright, and theater teacher from Mays Landing, New Jersey. Is that very helpful to have you in the same room?
Yeah.
They hold a bachelor's in American Studies from Rutgers University. They focus their thesis in American film and animation, all while interning at the Animation Collective in New York City and New Jersey Film Co-op. They completed 5 years of graduate level screenwriting at Hollins University, and they also worked as script supervisor for an independent film. Ricky also has written plays for high school and has been performed nationwide, including places such as Colorado, Virginia, California, all over the place. They've been teaching writing with their Ricky, with his partner Dana, been teaching writing since 2019. And together they formed the Young-Howze Theater Journal and have been reviewing theater since 2016. Yay! And on top of that, have reviewed over 50 online productions and virtual fringe festivals. Kudos to you. And I've got to say a big thank you. I feel what people like you are doing are so important to educate artists and audiences. So I thank you for being here and sharing some knowledge.
Thank you for having us. That means a lot that we're doing something, because sometimes it feels like you're just banging your head against the wall. So it feels good to know that it's having an impact and it's helping, mostly helping. That's what matters most.
Especially with digital theater, because we don't go anywhere and see anybody. So we will review the show, we'll watch the show, we'll review the show, we'll get feedback about it, but it's still the same four walls of our house.
Exactly.
And so if people saw it or not, a lot of it's like screaming into the void, seeing who calls back.
Yeah.
So It's great to hear that we've actually been noticed and people have been listening. So it's great.
You are indeed. And I hope in addition, as more people know and learn, it gets out there that we're all part of what I realize with this show, and just the people I meet, we all have to kind of promote each other. We've all got to be like, hey, check this out, check that out. So good. Well, thanks for coming on. And I tend to start the show out asking our guests, what was the beginning of 2020 looking like? Like, what were the plans, shows or things you're going to review, or we're going to build our website? And then what happened mid-March, and how did you pivot? So since you guys are together in the same room and kind of working it, you feel free to share that tale with us.
Absolutely. We quit.
We were
started
quitting
this year out quitting. We were doing well. And we had theaters we worked with, and in New Jersey and in South Jersey, there's actually a big theater community around us.
A huge theater community.
Yeah. And so we were like, we love who we work with. We love them so much, but we don't know what we're doing. We felt like we didn't know what we were doing. And so we're like, let's take a break. Let's build up our website. Let's get ourselves sort of regrounded.
Let's try to get sponsors and actually get paid for what we do.
Because one of the most shocking things people say is that we do this for free. I mean, people don't believe us, but we do often do this for little or no money. And so we were like, okay, let's start over. Let's see what the beginning of this is. And then March happened and everything shut down. And we're like, oh, I guess we didn't need to quit. We were quitted on. And then after that, we actually noticed a friend of ours doing a digital production of another friend of ours play. And we're like,
two people we had gone to grad school with. One had taught me How to Write for Children's Theater, the wonderful Nicole Atkins. I can't sing her praises enough. And then we were going to see a wonderful production. They had been doing the show, been in tech for the show, and then the stay-at-home orders happened in Georgia, so they had to scramble last minute to film the dress rehearsal, and then get out, just make sure and get home. So we saw them doing it. Said, okay, we have just sworn off reviewing, and we are horrible at swearing off things. And so I called them. It's the play Helvetica by William Coleman. I went to grad school with this person, and it's just wonderful. It's a wonderful show.
It's an amazing play.
So we reviewed that one and went, okay, we're done. That was great. And then someone called up and said my play is in this thing that these directing students were going to be doing.
Oh yeah.
At Southwest, it's Missouri Science and Technology University.
They have a theater program to help teach social skills
to STEM students and engineering students.
Oh, that's cool.
So a friend of ours had a play in that, and so we went to that, and we're like, oh man, this is great. Look at what they're doing. And we got to see different styles of directing. And then Cincinnati Fringe happened.
And it was a lark. It was literally like an accident. I walked up to him and said, like, okay, honey, we've done these two. Maybe we should look at a Fringe because they're going all digital and it might be interesting. We usually have to find what's interesting in it for us.
Yeah.
That's their biggest part. And then I said, maybe we should do a Fringe. And she was like, what are you talking to me? Start emailing. And that's how
we got Cincinnati Fringe. And that's where we met Peter Michael Moreno, who is the sweetest human being on the planet.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. We adore him. He's actually been one of our biggest cheerleaders and champions.
He was our first video, the first person we interviewed for our YouTube channel.
And he's always been like, you two are doing something. Yeah. You got to keep it up. And so hearing that made us keep going. And so it's been that way ever since. And 54 shows later since April.
Wow. To give you some scale, we were bragging about 50 shows reviewing Rumors last November. And that was 50 shows in 3 years. And it was just, I did the numbers and I counted and went, okay, we're going to have 50 shows. That's amazing. That's rock. And then I counted again. I was like, oh, wait, we're going to get to 100 very, very, very soon. So with Harlem 9, the 48 Hours in Harlem, that was our 100th show. And we're at 100.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Oh, sorry, go on. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I was just gonna say, so it's been a whirlwind. It went from nothing to everything kind of overnight for us, and it's been wonderful.
It's such a wonderful story, because really so many people went the opposite direction. And it's not only that you're increasing your numbers, but those numbers are affecting other people. Like those are 50 shows that wouldn't have been seen and get some like press coverage and criticism. And we're going to go more into this, but I just have to give a shout out to Peter. Peter was the one who put you guys on my radar. I'm very glad he did. And I think he has the record for the most mentions on this show. Everybody seems to have a Peter Michael Moreno connection. And so it definitely is, he's a good person to know with all this, and like yourselves, a real advocate for what's going on with the world. So we talked about that you've pivoted, and it was actually a very big thing in terms of what you were doing and increasing the numbers and the scope. And so, you know, a lot of times I ask the good, bad things of this, and this seems obviously has been a good thing. But let's talk a little bit more about what you've been seeing. And I think one of the jobs that's important about what you're doing is you're not only giving the feedback to the artists about how the show's working or not, which we'll talk more about, but for the audience, you're also kind of demonstrating what this streaming is and clarifying what is and not streaming. Like, we've got Hamilton on one scale, and then we've got a Zoom reading of somebody's play in speaker view, or, you know, webinar mode on Zoom. And they're very different. what have your research kind of showed for people who are trying to get their hands around this? What are these different types of formats, mediums, styles that are happening?
Shall I start?
Dana's usually the tech guru. I'm just the writing monkey.
We've actually had to invent terms. One of the things we'll start out with is a term we call breaking the fifth wall.
Mhm.
Because one of the things that happens is that you're not just talking to the audience, you have to break the wall of the between squares in
Like
digital
what we're
theater.
doing with you. We have to talk loud enough and give you enough that you can react to us.
Yes.
Yep.
And then there's an audience watching us doing this to each other.
So we have to reach further. And so we've figured out that when it comes to theater in this moment, it's about reaching past those walls. Whether you're recording the show live and you have to realize that this recording is what your audience is going to see, whether you're on Zoom and that's what the audience is going to see later, it's about breaking through that, past the screens, past the digital, past the tech, and whatever computer or recording device you're using, to an audience that isn't there.
Yeah.
And so we've found that it's about creating shows for an audience that isn't there. And so what Hamilton did is it did open a lot of doors and make people more comfortable with the idea.
Mm-hmm.
But their audience was right in front of them. They
Yeah.
had that audience. They were recording in front of a live studio audience.
Yeah.
And a friend we just talked to recently, Ginger Poole, who works with
She's the artistic director of the Mill Mountain Theater in
Roanoke.
Roanoke, Virginia.
She was saying that she misses those claps. She misses, hearing the gasp when something happens, or the laughter, and that is missing. We don't have that right now. And so when you're creating digital theater, whether you get all the actors in one room and you record it, or you're in Zoom and like you're scattered all over the four corners of the globe, the audience isn't there. And so it's creating theater in this moment, for this moment, for an audience that isn't there. And as long as you're doing that, to us, it's included in the umbrella of digital theater.
And the one thing that was an argument for us,
Mhm.
anything you see in a book or written by us came from a massive argument. Because the great thing about a writing partnership, it's almost like McCartney and Lennon. Like, it's a lot of we had an argument about the for this moment, because film, screenwriter, playwriting, we were always saying like, what is film, what is not. And instead of like doing nitpicky, like, oh, the camera is doing this, or like they had special effects, they had this thing. Did you create this for this moment?
Mm-hmm.
Did you create this presently, knowing that this was the end result? And with Hamilton, it was a show designed for that stage, in that moment right then, and filmed for a future moment. And I don't think if they had thought COVID was happening, they had a prophecy going on that we didn't know. And I doubt that was the case.
In fact,
Lin-Manuel's pretty smart, though. He may have had a clue in. He
had the genius grant, but I doubt that he would have thought of a wonderful thing that was going to kill all income for his industry. I doubt he wanted that.
Right. We think, if memory serves, Disney's plan was to put it in theaters. It was going to go to movie theaters as a
like
film,
a Fathom Events kind of thing,
and it wasn't going to happen. And so it ended up on all our TVs. We all got Disney Plus, because what else were you going to do? And now everyone can watch it, and it
revolutionized this moment.
Yes.
And I mean, we've been listening to it nonstop. We actually didn't want to like it, but we like it. But it revolutionized this moment. I think it gave a lot of people inspiration to want to try stuff. I really think it gave a lot of young people, a lot of high schoolers, inspiration to want to try something like this. But it wasn't for this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And what I loved seeing, especially from Cincinnati on, was seeing shows that were like, in this moment, people have had to adapt their existing shows to be performed in their bedroom. We had to We had people who had to scrap everything. One of my favorite shows was Killjoy, Ohio,
I was just about to
by
mention them.
Queen City Flash. It's Trey Tatum, Bridget Leak, and they worked with Jordan Trevelyan. They were starting one show, and in 4 weeks scrapped it, wrote another one, filmed it, put lighting board. They put lighting boards and lighting in their closets.
Yeah.
And did they synchronized cues from 11 miles away, and they did a completely new show. Film got it right on the second take and went, "Oh, we're done." And they sent it, and that was what's that since it went to Cincinnati Fringe, it went to Minnesota Fringe, it went to Saskatoon Fringe, and I know Trey and Bridget are like, "You missed one," and like you'll have to get on the comments. You'll have to tell us.
But yeah, one of the things about that show and why we had to stop saying things like, "Is it about the camera? Is it about the effects? Is it about, edits? Is it about using different microphones?" Is that there's a lot of stuff you can do to make it better and make it more palatable, I guess. I don't know if that's the perfect term for an audience, or more, clean cut, but that doesn't change what it is. They had these beautiful lighting effects, everything from, one time she's lighting a lighter and you can see the reflection of that light off his side of the screen,
and it's really him just holding his own lighter off camera so it'll reflect on it.
So cool.
And it was amazing, and it used a lot of great techniques, but
at the end of the day, it was still theater for an audience that wasn't in front of them. And I think when you start nitpicking and you think, "Oh, well, what if it's recorded?" Well, yeah, sometimes you record it because it's going to a fringe and it's being replayed over and over by people. Or you record it because you did it live the first time in front of an audience, but you want more than one audience to see it, and you want it to go further than just what that viewing was. And you have that opportunity now. You don't have to just do a specified run per se. You can have it up for a little longer, have tickets selling for longer, have them selling all over the country, and that way you can get more out of this. Instead of just, you had your run, you made your money, you go, you can actually do something that helps you either as a director or producer, and then helps your actors and helps the people working with you get more, especially as we're all going broke in theater. We need these moments.
we need to hang
this
together this way.
We need this money. And so doing things like, "Oh, it's pre-recorded." Well, so, they use a camera, they use tech effects, they use a background screen that makes it look like they're in the Bahamas. Great. I hope they do. If you
use the tools you have.
If you were in a theater right now and you had things at your disposal as a director, sometimes you would use them, and you would use them to make your show better. If you had props that worked for your show and you were like, "No, I don't want to use them because I want to be pure," or something like that, people would think you were crazy. They would think, "Why aren't you using that sword? You have a sword fight." And so this tech is the same as those props. They're just tools and a means to an end.
The one thing I found, and we get on rants all the time, but don't worry about
it. No, that's good. You've got a lot to unpack, but this is good. Keep going.
The one thing I found, and this is the one thing I've noticed, it's my favorite thing that I realized, no matter whether you've talked to other people who do digital theater, no matter whether you've come from a film or theater background, in film, the one thing that distinguishes film and theater is that in film, the camera is the tool of the director. The director, the camera has a personality, it shifts, it can phase, it can move, but we've all entered this handshake agreement when it comes to digital theater that the camera is the tool of the audience. You don't mess with the camera. You don't do a lot with the camera. The camera is the audience's eye. That's our proscenium arch. Like, this is what we are. And that's one of the things I've realized. I don't know if it's a handshake agreement. People I know who've never talked to each other. There's no handbook to this. There's no like open the thing and then there's a
rule
Bible.
book, yeah.
And so, but I've realized that a lot of times that's the thing that defines digital film is that we've all agreed that camera is the audience, and so we're not going to mess with it.
Mm-hmm.
We don't put it on dollies or cranes or anything, or we don't try to do too much with it because we want it to be kind of exactly the. We kind of want to keep to that proscenium art. It's one of the biggest things that's been our kind of our founding
and we've
altar
seen that
for years.
We've seen that all over, and theaters who've never talked to each other. That agreement of here's the camera, which is now your audience, and here's the action. And like you probably haven't met the people at Cincinnati, Ohio, or even if you did, you probably like met them in passing. But they did a recent play, Feast, and it was more similar to a play. She was on a stage like moment, but it was like a room, but it looked like a stage, and the camera never moved. And nothing happened because the camera is now the lens of the audience. It's the eyes of the audience. She moved closer when she wanted to get closer. She moved further away when she wanted to get further away. It wasn't about the camera gliding over her or gliding over the background. It was about the camera just being the audience. And that's happened almost in everything we've seen. So it's definitely, there's a lot. And that's the biggest, there's a lot going on. But I think it's about this moment. And it's about, when March 13th, Friday the 13th hit, what was theater after that?
Yeah.
And where is it now? And so, yeah, there's plenty of pre-recorded theater. I mean, you could go to PBS right now and watch anything you want, but it wasn't necessarily made for this moment, for an audience in this moment. And that's, I think, the key definition.
I like that. I like this sense of in the moment and how you're reflecting to Hamilton as at that moment, what they were doing then for that. And it does kind of put in context what's going on in context to something that is still growing. There's still new forms coming out. The episode before this, we were also going through a list of the different types of forms, and in the moment kind of puts a nice wrap around it. And obviously there is a difference between a show that's been done live, whether it's recorded or seen live, versus some archive video that was done in front of an audience way back when. So I think that terminology, and again, that's something important that you're doing to kind of let people know that. I have to think too, as you know, when this first happened, there was this big, is this theater, is this not theater? A big debate, people trying to draw lines in the sand of all that. You obviously came in, kind of got a little nibble of it and kind of dug it and came back again. Obviously it's not exactly theater, but to you, is this like theater adjacent? Is it just a brand new medium world? Is it film? Like, how would you, it's in the moment, I get that, but how do you feel about it?
One of the things we've been saying from, probably not from the beginning, but we
started building this mindset as we
probably around June, was we don't want digital. We've been calling it digital theater, which is a very hammer term for a nuanced thing. It's not a good enough definition, but for now it's duct tape. It'll do. But we've been calling it digital theater, and our hope is that it doesn't go away and it can exist alongside traditional or stage theater. We don't think it replaces the stage, for goodness sakes.
We're one of the first people who would tell you that we would love to be back in a physical theater again once it's safe, and once everything is kind of cleared out. We want everyone to get back into the theater. So we're not saying that digital theater is gonna, like, we're not saying that theater is dead, long live the king. It's more of a, it is more of a, we wish that this would be a tool that theater companies use to reach a broader audience in a broader region and get us outside of this idea theaters have to be about geography.
Right.
Theaters don't have to be about New York and everyone coming from New York and everything streaming down to these community theaters. Theater doesn't have to be about something getting good and having to go up to Chicago, try out and again go up to New York. I really love that it's going to let amateur companies, community theater companies, who we call bivocational. They might have another job, but they're professional level in a lot of places. And regional theaters be able to reach regions without having to go through this idea that we are landlocked in one place.
Yeah, one of the things we noticed is, as much as we love theater, there were gatekeepers, and I mean, there's still gatekeepers.
Yeah,
there's gonna be gatekeepers no matter what.
Yeah.
But there were gatekeepers who made people feel like they couldn't do theater the right way or a certain specific way. And what we're hoping digital theater does is show that there isn't a specific way, and that energy that's happening right now, where we're all using the same tech. You know, whether you're Walt Disney or you're us in our house, you're using the same either Zoom or you're recording and putting it on YouTube. It's the same tech. And so it evens a playing field that wasn't even before. And so it's now theater's not just for people who can afford it per se, it's for everyone. And I mean, don't get me wrong, we've also found that there is a financial discrepancy in digital. So it's not a perfect solution, but it's highlighted those discrepancies in a way that I don't think we took the time to notice before. And I'll admit it, I'm just as guilty as anyone of thinking that, oh, it's theater. Anybody can do theater. We're all welcome here. And then you started realizing, no, there were a lot of locked doors. And I can't believe I didn't see them before. I didn't see how many doors people had to go through, how many hurdles, how many times they were told, no, this play doesn't fit with our stage, our audience. And you didn't know if it did or not because you didn't try it. And so what digital theater allows is the try. There's very little overhead except for either purchasing Zoom or getting something to record with, and then anybody can do it. And so we're seeing more original, varied works than ever before. And not just because they're in fringes. There are things that are in fringes. There are things that are just like, hey, we had this play lying around since 2018.
Well, actually 2012.
Oh yeah.
There was what I loved is there's people like Freeway Love. That was a show we saw about. It was inspired off the life of Basquiat. They had that play sitting around for about 4 or 5 years, maybe more. And when this moment happened, they went, oh, well, we can finally get it together, because they were looking for the right cast, the right venue. There's like, perfect. There's no better time than the present to get this done. And they did, and it was amazing.
Yeah, and so I don't want us to lose this. You know, personally, I wouldn't want this moment of let's just try it to be gone. And I think because people are afraid of, you got to rent the space. You got to sell the tickets to pay for the rental fee to rent the space. Now you don't have to do that. You can put it up on Zoom, you can record it, and then you can charge people $5 or $0. And then you can at least try it. And so that's what's important.
I agree. And it highlights some of what you said very well. And somebody just mentioned this, the equal playing field is really apparent. And I would comment on when the internet first came out, that term was being thrown around as well, that small computer companies could compete with IBM because they're out there and can hit a similar audience. I think this has really shown that, and shown some of the discrepancy that some people don't have that. I also, in terms of creativity, speaking of Peter Michael Marino and other guests I've had on the show, the one kind of underlying current is how they're all like, and you just got to do it. You got to play it. You've got to switch on the camera, take a chance, and come up with some ideas and just make it happen. Just play it. Our engineer Miles Berman did that several months ago and jumped into redoing a version of Romeo and Juliet, and he just played. He got his actors together and he just really played and worked it and came up with ideas through that. I hope that doesn't end. I also feel that tech companies are making adjustments as we go along. That we do have Zoom just came up with a whole new revamp of features and making it a little more user friendly for theater productions. And I've heard stories of all faceted programs that will take care of all tech and lights and video and bring in people from all over the world. So I hope there will be more of that as ideas as the boundaries are being pushed. I want to talk a little bit more as we go into what some of these shows are and what are some of these boundaries are being pushed. You had mentioned the Cincinnati Fringe, and in general in your resume or in your bio, the importance of fringes. I'm a big fringer. I'm big into Hollywood Fringe. I went to Edinburgh Fringe for the first time last year. Was awesome and rocked my world. Yeah, it's
reviewed
the best.
it for the first time ever. So
yeah.
Congratulations.
It was great and I would have been hopefully back this year, but I mean, in any event, the Fringe, for those who don't know, is a wonderful world of experimental theater, low budget, high concept, fun, everything from somebody talking to full musicals, and it really does allow for kind of experimenting and playing with it. So it makes sense that you've kind of approached the Fringe world. And because there was a play, what are you seeing? I mean, these all pretty much Zoom and people playing with Zoom, or give us an idea of some of the ways that you see people kind of pushing this.
Well, it's funny. I thought it was going to be all Zoom. No, not at all.
Not at all.
You have Zoom, then some people use Twitch, which was it. That's also an interesting medium. Sometimes it would be Facebook Live, and I mean, sometimes you have to use Zoom to get onto Facebook Live, so you'll layer that tech. You often have to layer the tech. You have to Zoom, but you're recording it, and so your director will come in and they'll be on a third computer but hidden. That's what Killjoy Ohio had to do.
Yeah, Trey was in their little tiny like linen closet performing. Jordan was 11 miles away in they cleared her partner's medical like office out and didn't just play to a back wall. But Bridget, director, was downstairs in their living room just watching like the audience would.
And she was recording, I think, from her computer.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So it's definitely like it's a team sport. And then we saw another play where they practiced social distance. They did a lot of practicing online. One company was like, "Oh yeah, we found a video game, the Disney Penguins."
Oh, Quit While You're Ahead.
Yeah,
they did a lot of their blocking in a multiplayer as an RPG game like Penguins, and they would figure out the blocking there because when they got into the place to perform, I think they said they would have like just the 5 hours to shoot as many takes as they could, and they had to watch out because it was a kids thing. So any mentions of alcohol or cussing would get them out. So they just did as much vlogging as they could, and so when they got in,
they knew kind of where they were going to be positioned, and so they actually recorded the play happening. Like the audience, once again, the camera's the audience, and they did the play like that, and that was another way we saw theater. One person shows like Peter just turned on his Zoom and did it live.
Yeah,
out of his living room for about 1 million times.
Yeah, and we actually got to see it twice. Once in Cincinnati and once in another time, Queerly Festival, and it's a different play every time, and it's just Peter talking to us like he's just like he's talking to you over a beer, like you're his friend, and it's the same show but very different each time. I'm trying to think because we had
a lot of the social distanced ones.
Mm-hmm.
When you practice in a socially distanced way, we've seen a couple of different ways you can go about it. From everyone rehearsing virtually or rehearsing outside, and like you don't get the real thing going in. And so you get like Jury Dury and Cincinnati Fringe. A lot of what came on in Minnesota Fringe was like that. And so when you get on stage, maybe they had a dress rehearsal, maybe they didn't. But what you see was literally them in the room for the first time.
Wow.
And then there was stuff like She Kills Monsters at Elm Street Art Center, where I don't know how they socially distanced, practiced sword fighting and close combat fighting and kissing and all that, and then to finally get on stage, and you just, the thing you feel is this rush, this sense of like a roller coaster of like they have never seen this happen before either, so we're all gonna see how it's going to work at the same time. But we've gotten different evolutions. It's evolved more where I think as bigger theaters figure out how to practice social distance, and practice as in rehearse in a socially distanced manner. Polka Dots, the kids musical with Mill Mountain Theater,
they did a whole other thing. They actually, it's an internship program they did. So they had 4 weeks. They brought everybody in, and then they had to do the COVID test, put everybody in their rooms, have them in masks when they're in the social areas, give them each their own silverware. Then
they did 2 weeks of
10 days in, didn't they?
Yeah, well, they were doing they did 10 days in, and then they had to test again just to see if they could practice.
And then after the 10 days, they got tested again. Everyone was clear. And then what the theory is now you're a family unit or a friend unit. So if you get tested twice and you're in the same area, you're now a family unit, and you can now do more together. And that's when they started their rehearsals, being prepared to do that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so then they were still socially distanced, but they could now rehearse on stage.
Mm-hmm.
In preparation of being filmed.
What I love about these descriptions you just gave, and you could keep going, because what's amazing is that you're seeing this development of people playing with it, the social distancing, the physical distancing, people working and growing and getting creative, and art's going to survive, and we're going to quarantine and all that. And that's really exciting. I want to call out, we've gotten actually a bunch of comments thrown out. I first, just recently to your conversation, Era Ziv from Frigid Theater in New York City. I guess you saw one of his shows at Queerly. Does that sound familiar, at the Queerly Festival?
Probably seeing
Eris, what show was that? If you can scrout that out. And while he's calling up there, Jonathan Tipton Myers, a wonderful person. He's in transit, but he's enjoying the convo.
Thanks, Jonathan.
He had an interesting comment. This came out earlier. I watched Cooper Bates, who's a wonderful performer, Black When I Was a Boy, last week, and he performed in a theater with a few people, which is another unique model. Like, there is some physically distanced theater, and he made $1,400 in one night and can rebroadcast it. There is kind of the money thing we're talking about. There is an element and hope of that. And he had people, and this is also something I think we may have touched on, the fact that you're getting people from all over the world on this, and that it really is, it's a bigger thing. I mean, you guys are where? You guys are in New Jersey, and you're seeing shows from all over the world. I mean, you would never be able to see those shows.
Exactly. I mean, one of the problems we had as we were reviewing the previous 3 years was that we're very much in our own backyard. So how far can we drive? Can we take a train there? Can we bus there? What can we do to get to another location? You know, we could see plays maybe in New York City, because that's like, you know, a 3-hour transit, maybe DC, because that's 3 hours too. But outside of that, Cincinnati, I think we looked it up. It's a
10-hour drive.
It's a 10-hour drive.
10-hour drive.
And that's a schlep.
It is. And you're able to, Oh, I was saying, and you're able to do this as much like when you bring up Cooper Bates, 1400. He's not paying for rent. He's not paying for all the staff and everything. That's money in his pocket. Likewise for you guys, you're not paying for the bus ticket if you were going to do that anyway, and an apartment or something to stay at, and food and all that. Not cooking it at home. This economic game has changed it. Where in some ways there's a real perk, there's a real benefit in just streaming.
It actually did benefit us a little bit more to stay digital than to go back in person. I mean, we will go back. The minute we get the word that the vaccines are great, we can all go back in. We'll definitely just email us. But one of the things is that because I can just get up and write the review and know that we can read the other review from our bed, and we're filming from our bed and we're doing everything from our bed. It really is very easy to like get up and go to the theater. We don't have to.
It's not a process. It's not getting up, getting dressed, doing things. One of the things we actually talk about is accessibility. We're both disabled. I have lupus. Ricky has Tourette's and dystonia, and so we have good days and bad days. That's just it.
And then we have bad days and worse days.
Yeah, with invisible disabilities, it's just part of the course. And so it's that getting up, getting dressed, going to the car, doing the thing. We can do it. We've done it. We've done it for a very long time.
We've done it horribly, and we've done it very well some days, and then we've done it where we've just duct taped ourselves together and got the review out.
And so this has made it so we can do more than one show in a day. We can see a lot more things. One of the things we will argue, and we will fight anybody on any stage, any time, for this belief that if you can record your shows after you go back to being on stage, if you can have those live streams, you can just live stream it once for all we care. But if you aren't doing that when we get back on stage and inviting the world into your theater, you are missing money. You are missing opportunities.
We're definitely thinking that this is going to open up something that the movies have had for a long time. Everyone in Hollywood knows what a back end is. Knowing that after you film the show and it's had its theater run, you have all the movie from licensing, merchandising, you have showing it on TV, and just people picking up the physical copies. Well, I have a feeling that publishers and playwrights and everyone creating theater right now is going to have to know that once you can live stream, and once theaters have learned that they can do it, once theaters have already put the infrastructure up to build their season for all of 2021 to do it, they're not going to let that go. If they've already purchased the cameras, they're going to want to do shows that they can live stream. They're going to want to do shows that they can record. And if you're not going to license for that, you're going to quickly be like one of those people who said that Zeppelins were going to take off. You're going to be one of those people who put all your investment in like coal engines. It's really not going to be well for you.
We've been calling it a Gutenberg moment, where it's like the printing of the Gutenberg Bible, where you can't put that genie back in the bottle. Digital theater is here. And so we're hoping that people exploit it to their benefit. Use it, test run a show on Zoom before you rent out the theater.
I'm actually hoping Zoom becomes the new black box theater, because one of the things that always bothered me is that black box theater started in this off-Broadway movement of, we're going to just get out and try stuff. We're going to get out and try stuff, and we're going to suck, and it's going to suck, and we're not going to make a bunch of money, but we're going to try. And the little theater movement was built off of that. And what happened is you saw more and more bigger companies saying, oh, for our Broadway, for our like fringe space, our second space, we're going to do Assassins, where it's not really about doing a new show. It's not really doing an experimental show. It's about doing a show won't fill your 500-seat theater. I've seen too many of these times where they're not doing anything really like edgy or something like that, or letting people experiment or try stuff. They're really just filling those second spaces with something that they knew wouldn't sell out the house, but they wanted to. It was their little passion projects. And I really hope with Zoom that I really hope with Zoom we get more garage band theaters, a little more like, we're going to try and let's just try this. But also hope with the regional theaters do use this to help help build up smaller companies, help build up and educate new directors. I feel like there's not a lot of good. There's a lot of acting conservatories, but no one's really doing like, let's teach directors, let's teach producers, let's teach playwrights. And if you have no excuse, if there's a single camera and a Zoom feed in your theater, not to do that.
At least try. I mean, it's very little overhead. Give it a shot. If you fail, what did you lose? An hour of your day?
Absolutely.
Try.
Agreed.
Try.
I got to ask you, what is the most number of shows you have seen in one day now?
4. I think it was
4 or 5, actually.
We saw 5?
Cincinnati Fringe, we were really cool.
Oh, yeah.
We were young back then, all those 20 years ago. And we thought that we literally, I think that's the time we ended with Martin Dockery, and we started with Unrepentant Necrophile by the.
Oh yeah.
We were trying to slog through them.
I'm talking now. I'm talking like with your online streaming, not with Fringes. We all do that. Fringes. Oh, you're talking now.
Yeah.
Yep.
4 or 5 shows.
We have done 5 shows back then.
Digital streaming Fringe.
Nowadays we usually do 2.
We try to only do 2 just because sometimes it's a little overkill, but we have done 4 and just these,
nice.
Yeah. So
nice.
I mean, it's been one of those things where you can, especially like one of the other things about Zoom, people are trying to figure out that sweet spot of the length. And I will tell you, the most you can do is 90 minutes. For the sake of me everywhere, please don't do more than 90 minutes. I
think an hour. I tell you, I watch the numbers on this show. As soon as it hits an hour, it starts to drop. And when I watch other shows, 60 minutes is kind of our thing. If it's really good storytelling, and that's true with any theater piece, if it's really good, I'll last a little longer. But yes, Dana, I echo that. Also, I got to check out a little shout out from Peter Michael Marino. We were all younger in Cincy. It was forever. And actually, Erez pointed out that it was Peter's show that he was talking about from Queerly. So a little shout out, Peter. We're mentioning you're the most talked about person on this show. But another question I'd like to bring up another question from out there from Jonathan Tipton Myers. Are there any digital platforms that I saw the issue of delay so that you could have live audience reaction to a performance?
We actually had the pleasure of being embedded reporters at our old graduate school,
Hollins University, the Playwrights Lab, directed by Todd Ristow.
And they let us in the chat. One of the best things I kind of love is being in the chat on Zoom when somebody's doing a show, because you do get that instant like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he said that. Oh, he's a creeper. And
especially what Hollins was doing is Hollins is a playwriting MFA program. They do low residency, so there's directors there's new play directors, new play actors, and new playwrights from all around the country who come into one place for 6 weeks. Now, obviously, with stay-at-home orders, they were not going to be able to do in-person teaching that year, but it always culminates in a big festival of new student works. And so it seemed like very funny that everyone was trying all together, and that chat function kept us all in like a weird. We were guest responders and independent and embedded reporters, but there were other guest responders, other professors, fellow students, and us all in that chat together talking about the show.
Awesome.
It was literally what kept that community alive, and I have not seen that community in any other chat. What I would tell directors right now, open that chat up.
Yeah.
Like, don't be afraid of what people might say. You want to hear it.
You're afraid that they're not watching, but if we're in the chat, we're engaged.
We're engaged.
We're not just saying, oh, this is horrible. Because if we were saying, oh, this is horrible, we'd be saying that on Facebook. We'd be texting our best friends saying, oh, this is horrible. If we're in your chat,
we
love
about the show.
your show.
That's a good note. Bring the chat. And actually, I'm going to follow up that. He was actually asking, and this is something actually I may have tossed in, which streaming platform has the shortest delay?
He's talking. I
to
think
get
Zoom
audience's
still,
response. So like,
I,
is it, Zoom, like you're saying, is pretty quick. StreamYard's pretty quick. I mean, the comments do come in a little bit. I know OBS Studio, as soon as you start bringing things in and out of there, the latency, the delay starts to be more. Is Twitch
the
super
latency is
fast?
really depending on how many people you have. Zoom is. We did Tech Show where we were all open.
Tech Show
That was in Wisconsin.
that was in
Minnesota
Fringe, and that was where we're typing into chat and he's performing as we're doing it. And so after a while you do get a delay where you're typing something and it is later, but I'm trying to
It was
think.
like a 2-second, 3-second delay.
See, when I think of delay in audience response, are you talking and I, of course, he'll have to write back.
Yeah.
But are you talking?
We'll test the delay for this one too. Yeah.
Are you talking more about like if you do a socially distance, you don't hear from the audience until after they watch it later? Or are you talking about the immediate response?
Like
from
our
audience?
cameras and microphones on, and we're responding directly to what you're doing live.
Because in that case, don't do that. Please don't do that unless you're Peter Michael Moreno. Do not let your audience have the mic on. They will. Zoom is a fragile mistress, and she likes to freeze for no apparent reason.
And so once you get that, because there's a sound canceling thing in Zoom
Oh,
and other things. I don't know about other things in Zoom,
but I know
especially,
Zoom.
that you'll start sounding like Robbie the Robot from Lost in Space.
Yeah.
Just like it'll get bad.
Like one of our friends and one of our colleagues, John Bergman, was like, Zoom is primitive. And I never thought of it that way before because we think, oh, it's a new technology. We're in Star Trek. We're doing video calls. But it's primitive because it's not nuanced. It's, it's like trying to do detailed artwork with a hammer. You're going.
Yeah.
And we're all not knowing what's going on at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Very rarely in the theater recently has everybody, even the performers, not known what was going to happen at exactly the same time.
Yeah.
Same time. Yeah.
So there's this shared adversity. Our program director at Hollins, Todd Ristow, if he's hearing this, I'm giving him a plug. Always said, shared adversity is what builds the community, builds character.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like with the shared adversity of trying to get the show on, trying to trudge through the show, we've seen times where just the camera went out and everyone was so patient and waiting for someone to come back.
One of the things we do in our reviews, unless it's something that you could have prevented, we don't talk about tech issues. We just don't.
It's
good.
useless.
If your Zoom didn't go out during your performance, are you really Zoom performing?
It's almost part of the character. It's part of the character. If there wasn't something going wrong in a Zoom performance,
it's not the same.
Or any live stream performance. It just
I think when I see faults, to me that it makes my heart happy because it reminds me of a theater show. Oh, somebody forgot a cue. Oh, the lights went out. Oh, that's just like live theater. Oh, they forgot a line. Oh, it's not a video.
We watched a show where it was a live reading through the Hollins Playwrights Lab on Wednesdays nights where someone's power went out halfway through the reading. And so they dropped out. And unbeknownst to them, our power went out because we were in the same storm system because they're in Virginia. So we were holding on to the last battery life, listening to this live reading, while someone else had just suddenly become another two characters at once. And it was probably the funnest thing I'd ever seen in my life.
It's exactly like you said. That's what live theater is to me. Those moments of things going wrong and how you pick up and you keep going. Sometimes things will go wrong and it goes so beautifully well. You're just like, oh, that was an excellent show where this character had this moment where they stuttered. And it's like, no, that was a mess up. But I don't need to know that.
That was actually
exactly.
That's the things we go to the Waffle House and talk about after shows. We don't talk about we talk about we did a great show, but grab any cast that has performed together after 2 to 3 years, and the one thing they'll be talking about is how they got together and got after something went wrong. Just about everyone I think fondly of from college, high school. There, it's not about what we did right. It's always about how we persevered through what went
You
wrong.
well said. I agree, and that
Oh, I
is when
said
the
something
magic.
right.
I want to call out a few more comments that just kind of come in. Peter Mike Arena saw his first show at the Rochester Fringe. I think, is that going on now? I'm not sure. I saw some ads for it. And this is a nice little note from Erez. He runs over at the Fridges Festival in New York. He limits his shows to 60 minutes and not a minute more. He definitely.
God bless you, sir.
We appreciate that, because
I think that's it. Oh, and Jonathan finally got back to us. Not chat, audience response, laughter and applause. That's a great note.
Oh, okay.
That is one of the hardest things
to do
because of just the latency, and that's one of the things I think we're all longing to get back to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how we're going to do that. I don't know how you're going to assimilate that. I wish we could.
As I said, on Zoom, what you have is the mic blows out. I keep talking about Zoom like she's a woman, but I can't help it. The mic blows out. There's lag. I was actually, while we were talking about like the little things that make digital theater go bad and go right, even though we don't mention things going wrong in Zoom, one of the things that drives us nuts, and this is just keep in the back of your head, theater makers, use your pauses wisely, because when you pause in Zoom, your camera broke, and now we're wondering what went wrong, and it's just, oh no, the character needed a moment. So like another play we saw, this was Black Lives Black Words.
You're talking about Dominic's show?
No, the previous one.
Oh.
We finish each other's
sandwiches.
I love it. I love it.
That was Proof of Love.
Yes.
The woman would often take pauses because I call it a one woman show. He says it's not one woman show. It's a monologue play. We argue, but she would, during those pauses, she would take a sip from her cup.
She would do something.
And so if you're going to take pauses in your play on Zoom, move something, move your hands, move a prop, move something, because we sit there and like,
we already have the phone in our hands trying to figure out what's up.
Or we're wondering like, oh, did it freeze on our end? Is it our fault?
Yep.
Hold the phone at a different angle. So yeah,
I think that's great. That's a really good note on handling latency. I just want to quickly call some comments because I do want to kind of go around that hour mark. Ares is working on, I think Ares, you're talking about the tech and Zoom going out. My friend, you are working hard. You're working hard. I know it. Keep that magic going.
Queerly. It was amazing.
We loved Queerly. It was one of our favorites.
See, there you go. See, it's working, Ares. Jonathan, so there will be a platform that creates an audience rooms for group entry with barriers. Yeah, Jonathan, I think there's going to be several. There's a lot of work, I think, being done on this. I've heard from people who are studying media programs, people who are artists being contacted by technical groups. I know Virtual is working a lot on rooms where people can enter a room like Zoom and have a conversation, then leave that room and go to another room and really build that avatar kind of I'm connecting with each other. So I think we're at this dawn of excitement, dawn of discovery, and people really playing, as long as people keep playing. And I want to say that it's kind of with all this, I mean, you guys are going to you're going to put out a book, right? With all of these things. I mean, I could have you keep talking and fill us with all these things, but I think this book, when it comes out, this is something that people are going to need to look at as a way of referencing what's worked, what doesn't work. Is there plans of when this is going to come out, or are you going to do it like on the web?
We've assembled a team, like an advisory board. People who have been in the moment, artistic directors, actors.
Peter Moreno
is one of them.
Peter Michael Moreno.
And we're hopefully by December going to send them our second draft, not the first one, but the second draft.
Yeah,
because we want this fact checked by people who were in the room when it happened.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, there's my Hamilton plug.
There you go. We are hoping by next year, begin early next year. We don't want to rush it because one of
Yep.
the things I think we, like a lot of people, thought this moment was going to be over like that. And it's looking more and more like this moment's going to be a while. And so we don't want to say something that happened in March is what's going to happen, say, like December.
Right.
Everyone we interview and talk to has added something where we've had to change.
And it's evolving all along. One of the other things I was going to say about audience feedback is definitely like talkbacks have gone up for us.
Yeah.
Like they're so important.
Mm-hmm.
We always joke that like as theater reviewers we only have two texts, what we see and the program. And those are the only two texts we have. We try not to Google, we try not to see the movie it was based on. Like we try to kind of just make sure we're only using those two texts. And so talkbacks have been essential to get that audience feedback that you missed and get that applause and get those questions and those, those moments of, oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened. Or I was really confused about this moment here. And so they've been essential.
I think that's a great comment in terms of that feedback and reaction. And then for you in the book, then, I mean, are you putting all these are you putting like a weekly, I saw this shows this week, or are you kind of keeping it for the book to come out? Like, could we see your reviews right now? Could we see what you've written about things?
They're right on the blog.
They're right on our website, which our website, and we apologize because we're still working on creating a perfect.com, but right now we're on Tumblr. Ricky Young-Howze.tumblr.com. We will get around to typing it up. We apologize. If I talk in chat now, you guys, you will see me hold the phone up to my face, and no one needs that close up today. But I will share it, and you can always find us on our email. But we do our email on the screen. We're very talkative. You can talk to us about anything. Send us the shows you're doing. We're fascinated. We love hearing what people are up to, but we update our blog almost daily
now.
Yeah, we try to have something at least 3 times a week. We talk about shows we're doing, and we talk about what we've seen, how it did. We try to make sure our reviews aren't just thumbs up, thumbs down. That's good, but it's helpful.
We don't to give stars.
We don't do systems of is it good or not. It's not about good. There's things like when you say it's good or not, it's usually a personal preference, right? But there's shows I've seen that I didn't necessarily love, but I understood how they fit into the theater lexicon and how they were still important. And so we try to talk about their importance more than we talk about whether they're good or not. So,
plus if you're actually going out and trying to do theater, anybody, anytime, you deserve a medal because no one asked you to do this.
Exactly.
No one ever asked you to do theater. Nobody ever. When said someone put their hands on their shoulders when, son, you do theater. Everyone I know has very disappointed family right now, wondering when that doctorate degree is going to come in. So,
well, I think you guys deserve a medal for covering all this, and I think you also, those notes are important. And I think it's wise that you're not thumbs up, thumbs downing star. This is all new. This isn't like the 20th version of Romeo and Juliet you've seen, and you're putting it in perspective, a comparison. These are new works, new inventions. People need to feel safe to take risks. And I'm very excited. I'm for everybody out there. I'm sorry we didn't grab the Tumblr address. We'll have it on the YouTube comments. I'm going to be excited to check more of that out. And for people kind of seeing, sending you emails asking you to come see, you're really looking for live stream shows. You don't want them to send you a video from some show they did last year. This is live stream shows. And
can be recorded this year.
That's what I wanted to ask. So if I had a show that was live recorded, I could send that in to you.
Yeah, absolutely. If it's from this year and you're still showing it to an audience, or this is what an audience viewed, Absolutely.
Yeah.
But we don't want anything special. Don't send us a critics copy. You know, this
We don't want
isn't the Oscars. We're not those judges. We want to see what the audience sees because we're their eyes and ears. We're the ones telling them, hey, this is why you need to see this. This is why this is important. This is where it fits in to theater. This is where it fits into this moment. So yeah, if it was recorded in 2019, that's fun.
Mhm.
But what does that do for, you know, the audience now? They're not seeing you in this moment, and we want to share you in this moment and what you're going through.
Also, we're community theater and high school theater,
middle school theater. We don't care.
I used to say I come from community theater trash, so I have it in my blood. If you're sitting there going, "Oh, he won't review us because we're very professional," we will review anything. The only way to not get reviewed by us is to not email us.
Yeah, send us everything.
All right. So we'll bring that up again as we're kind of running this out. Randy, Young-Howze, thank you both. This was very informative. I think these are the conversations are very important right now as we're kind of working out what this whole new world is. And it's great that you're spending your time and energy doing that, and that you're accessible, coming on the show and giving out your email to get people in. So thank you. Is there any show, I don't want to put you on the spot, is there one or two shows that you would shout out that is, you know, is still up there that people should maybe take a look at?
I'll do it.
You got it.
Feast is by Megan Gogarty is still up at Cincinnati. In the No Theater Cincinnati, you got to get your tickets now. It only has a few showings left.
It's over this weekend.
Polka Dots, the Cool Kids musical, is streaming on Broadway now on demand. You have to go to millmountaintheater.com, send your email. It's 100% free. We're doing Butterfly Effect with Halifax Friends. That'll be on Instagram. And if you follow, those are the three that we're going to be reviewing this weekend. Oh, and Savor the Sea from a Distance, Halifax Fringe
is on. They do it live, I think, and there's various showings. So go to Halifax Fringe. We should say that in general.
HalifaxFringe.ca.
Halifax Fringe.
Yep, definitely check them out. But yeah, definitely give Cincinnati Fringe. Actually, the No Theater in Cincinnati. Give them a wave from us. We love them. They've been really nice to us. They do a lot of good shows. And Megan Gogarty, who wrote Feast, is a friend of ours too. And we can vouch it's a really good show, and it's different from a lot of stuff you may have seen. So it's worth checking out.
Yep.
Well, great. Well, thank you again. I got to echo Jonathan Tipton-Myers. You're wonderful guests and lucky bastards for having a Waffle House. So, yes, and I can't wait till we can actually all go back there and eat and go out. But in the meantime, thank you for fighting the fight. I look forward to keep in touch and reading your reviews. Everybody go send your shows out there. Take a look for their book coming out early next year that will help make sense of all this craziness. I hope to see you after the credits. We'll meet in the back room. We can have a little post-show conversation. So I look forward to that. Audience, thank you so much for coming today. This was a great day of press talking. Great ideas. Next week, we've got an international show coming in. People from 4 different countries that brought a show that went around the world, The Art of Facing Fear. We've got conversation with Blair Russell and Joshua Silverstein, the awkward conversations of money and race that we're having now in the theater. And we're also going to be talking about making musicals, that real challenging art of doing musicals online with Scott Guy and Elise Dewsbury from New Musicals, Inc. So we'll be there next week. In the meantime, Rick and Dana, have a great weekend. Enjoy all your shows. Keep doing what you're doing. And thanks so much for coming. Thanks for coming to What's Next, everyone.